Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock.
My name is Danny.
And we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Home Dad Chat. Tonight is going to be a night where we've got two guests on, and they're both together sitting side by side because, well, they're in their own little pod out there in the Pacific Northwest, and they've been doing their own podcast. But it's a very niche category that I love to listen to because I enjoy drinking it as well. We've got Joe and Jake from the Stay-at-Home Dad Beercast, and we're going to be talking craft beer tonight. So I'm excited to have that conversation. Danny, are you excited to talk about craft beer tonight?
Very excited for you guys to talk about craft beer and to think about, well, why don't you just drink scotch like, I don't know, adults do, but it's fine. It's fine.
I can grab the scotch too.
Yeah, we
don't
That's a separate show.
discriminate.
We got a different show maybe on scotch. But I will say that the thing that I really do appreciate it, and when Brock brought it up originally, we're going to talk about craft beer, and I know this is not my element, and this is just so everybody's aware out there in podcast land. I don't like the taste of beer. It's just not something I've ever gotten really used to. That doesn't mean that I think it's gross or anything like that. I just don't enjoy it. So I've never gotten into the nuances of it. But that's what I really do love about y'all's podcast and about when Brock starts talking about it, just that depth of the layering of just flavors and nuance and everything that you really can appreciate about a beer, that passion, I guess. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great show, honestly, even if it's not really my, what we say these days, in my wheelhouse. So,
Okay, sure.
So you're going to learn a lot tonight. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, I'm just going to listen and smile a lot, but y'all are going to have fun, and that's what counts. So,
all right, that works for me. Yeah, so definitely going to be talking beer and drinking some beer, whatnot. But I know a little bit about Joe, not, because Joe and I have been hanging out quite a bit, and I don't know really much at all about Jake other than when I listen to your guys' show. So we're going to start with Jake. I just wanted you to kind of tell a little bit about your family setup.
So I've got two daughters. So I've got a 2-year-old, and then I've got a 7-year-old. And then I've got my wife who now works from home as well. So now I'm inundated with 3 women at all times, begging and pleading for me to feed them. But luckily, that's within my wheelhouse.
Nice.
It's the dog is the only other male in the house, and he doesn't count half the time.
And how long have you been a stay-at-home dad?
I've been bartending on and off. Even throughout the entirety of being a stay-at-home dad, but usually only, 15 to 20 hours a week max. So, but I've been doing that for the last 7 years, ever since we moved over here to Olympia from Spokane.
Okay.
But even when we moved, I didn't work more than 30 hours anyways. So
is that a traditional bar, or is that like an actual tap room at a brewery?
It's Applebee's is what has been working for me for almost 20 years now. Less 1 year at this point. And it's always worked out well for me. And I've worked in, a couple of smaller places that are more craft beer and pizza oriented, and, a couple of dive bars, guest bartending at different bars throughout my career as well.
So are you a fan of the show or the movie Cocktails then? Are you a big Tom Cruise fan?
No. No. How can you not appreciate that movie? But it's
I love that
all
movie.
the time. Yeah. Everyone's always like, oh, can you do that Tom Cruise shit? And I'm like,
Why?
I'm like, I can. I'm like, I can look into it, but I, tend to lean more towards his Mission Impossible skill set than his cocktail skill set, or at least in my
3
own
drinks and I'll try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So, and then Mr. Joe. This is Joe Saladino. He's been a part of the National At Home Dad Network for quite a while, and come to quite a few home dad cons here recently.
Even ran for the board.
Even ran for the board against me and a few others. So no hard feelings. We're still good friends.
As you know of.
I didn't know that was going to happen. For everyone just listening to the podcast, someone might have almost flicked someone else off. Just so you're aware.
There's
Friendly.
don't pay attention to the dartboard with Brock's face on it behind the screen. Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. I wonder why every once in a while I feel a little prick on my face.
exactly.
So yeah, but so Joe, tell us a little bit about your family.
A what on your face?
Yeah, Joe's wife has that problem sometimes too.
Oh man.
Welcome to our podcast. This is ours now.
Yeah, I know this is yours. This is totally
yours. No, so married, oh crap, coming on 12 years. Together about 17, 30, 100 years, I don't know, forever, since college. I've got a 4-year-old boy, and that's plenty because he's a machine and just keeps running until he passes out.
Don't send him to Russia, man, and tell him.
Yeah, right. He'll have a blast.
I am the machine.
I am the machine. He'll have a blast. That's that'd be typical of our family. And then I've been a stay-at-home dad the entire time. When my wife got pregnant, she was the one with the full-time job that actually provided our housing at the time at a college campus, and I was freelance photography, and I'm still freelance photographer, but a lot less because of the stay-at-home dad role, and because of COVID, she's been working from home, same as Jake's wife, the entire time, pretty much. So, yeah, pretty similar.
Yeah,
and
that's cool, man.
And yeah, we're basically in a pod over here because Jake lives diagonal from me in a parallel cul-de-sac.
Yep, and we got to become good friends throughout the whole quarantine because we would have the occasional beer. And then once quarantine started, it's like, oh, hey, lunch beer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both of the kids are asleep.
Yeah.
We synchronized our naps.
Yep.
Nice.
And that's how the friendship really started. It's kind of funny. My wife met him and his wife first, walking the kid around. And I'm a social person, but I don't really like meeting new people necessarily. Like I was like,
I feel really lucky then being that I met you at New Orleans.
You should. And she walks in and she goes, oh, that neighbor Julie I met the other day. Yeah. Well, I met her husband. He's a stay-at-home dad too. And it was like, you guys are gonna be best friends. Just goes nuts.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't care about this dude. Like, what the?
Yeah. Who's this weirdo you're bringing into my family? What are you doing?
Exactly.
Did you already invite him over?
Yeah.
Almost.
That weird guy that's always wearing flannel and
That reminds me of the Dude Dad's one of his most recent videos where it's the wives coming together and they've got their husbands and they're like introducing the husbands and they're like,
you want to see my garage?
You want to see my garage? And they take off running.
Well, so that's what happened because of beer. We talked a couple of times just seeing each other outside. And then I'm like, you know what? You want to have an afternoon beer sometime or whatever? It's like, sure. And the thing that we know individually, but didn't know together at that point was you don't want to waste really good beer on people who don't know really good beer. Like if they're not going to appreciate it, this is like a $20 beer. This is like $1 an ounce.
Yeah.
Do I really want to waste this? So I grabbed one of my favorites that I knew I could find again.
And he's actually missing the important part. This started because he was like, I really want to try cast iron cooking. I'm like, well, funny story. Like it's literally the day that him and I started chatting and then we became Facebook friends.
Yay. High school, yay.
And so he put that up and he's like, what should I look for? And I'm like, just walk over to my house and I'll give you a cast iron skillet because
he had like a stack of 5. Just
25.
Nice. I remember that conversation.
Yeah. And so then like 2 or 3 days later, he's all like, well, hey, I've got this rusty nail.
Yeah, Fremont Brewing Rusty Nail. It's seasonal. It's not cheap, but you can find another one. So I was like, this is this isn't what we call a unicorn beer. A unicorn beer is something you will never find again, or you have to hunt everywhere for.
Yeah.
This is not one of those.
Is this
so it's like,
open the door to friendship beer? Is that what that is?
yes.
Yep.
Yes. And it's like, if he appreciates this, we can drink more.
Yeah.
And
we can go further.
yep.
He is
Yep.
not voted off the island.
Exactly. And that's what launched it. So, and what, for 8 months, he was bringing up, we keep doing this. We should have a podcast. We should have a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, that's gonna happen. There's a few people, the three of us know that I've almost had podcasts with that haven't gone through. And I'm like, oh, another person that's like, yeah, podcast. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then we kept, doing these happy hours, and COVID hit. And so then we couldn't go anywhere, do anything, but we're both still in the same proximity. I was like, all right, let's go.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Well, and it's for the first like 2 months of quarantine. It was okay. You bring a glass.
No, you bring a beer.
Well, you bring a beer, bring a glass, because we would also set the glasses up on the yard waste container in front of my house, and then whoever brought the beer would come over and pour the beer into the glasses, and then there we were good, we were safe.
But the first week we didn't even do that. The first week it was bring your own beer. What are you drinking? What am I drinking? We wouldn't even pour separately, because that was back when it was like wipe down
Every
stuff from
groceries,
Amazon,
like-
your grocery.
Mhm.
I'd come home from the grocery store and strip down to my drawers and go directly to the shower after going grocery shopping. And
do we need to re-rinse the vegetables? Do they, do the groceries have to stay, the ones that can have to stay in the garage for, 3-4 days before they can be brought in?
All the non-perishables got quarantined in the garage for, 48 hours. And
right.
So how many episodes have you guys put out so far?
So we have two things, right? We've got the Beercast, the podcast, audio, which may be video soon. And then we've got our quick reviews, which we video record on GoPro. They're 3 to 4 minutes, and we put on Facebook and Instagram.
Those are fun to watch. I enjoy those.
We have fun on those.
Yeah.
And you don't have to hear us ramble for over an hour usually.
As we get a little bit schmammered 9 times out of 10.
The Beercast came from us blowing off steam and sitting around. So we kind of have to watch ourselves if we don't have an interview on an episode, because we'll sit around and blow off steam.
Yeah.
But so the Beercast has 23 episodes up right now. We've got 3 in the can.
Nice.
Waiting to go up. And then the quick reviews, I think we've got 27 or 28 as of right now. And all told, I need to go back and count, but friend of the show, friend of Brock's as well, Brian Frampton.
Oh yeah.
He asked me and then came up with a number. He thinks we're at about 120 beers drank between the two of them.
He's keeping count of your beers.
No,
That's really
funny. He asked me. He hasn't keeping count. He asked me if I'd put together a list.
Oh, okay.
Because he is one of our fans that follows relentlessly, and he's like,
yeah. And he's not too far from you guys either.
He's in Spokane,
He's in a happy place
where he wants to be.
So once I move back home, I'll do the Beercast with him, and you can cry in your garage.
Yeah. Well, and
he'd love that.
And he's also a constant guy that attends the dad lounge on Monday nights. He's always in there hanging out with us, so it's always fun to talk with him.
Right
there.
So he estimated, because he's like, well, some of them are this many. He estimated about 125, somewhere around there. So once we have half of our stock in our 2 garages already listed out. And I'll put that up eventually. But next will be to go through all the backlog of stuff and have it like on an Excel.
Well, and I almost think we should probably create our SAHD Beercast Untapped account.
That too.
And we should go through and rate all of our beers so people can go through our podcast and actually see what our ratings are.
It was okay, 4.5.
So speaking of beers, I want to segue into what you guys are drinking and what I was telling you. I was teasing at what I've got here. So I've
been lusting after what you've been pouring. So
yeah. So this is a very special. I was telling Joe about this through text message a while ago. This is the most expensive can of beer that I've ever bought, which for you guys will seem like nothing, honestly, because I know you've bought some really expensive stuff. But this can cost $11.50, and I was really excited about it. because,
Mhm.
and Joe's laughing at me right now too.
Well,
No,
he
I'm-
just broke something.
I just
Oh,
broke something, so I'm
no.
laughing at myself.
Yeah.
Okay, but so this is called I'll show you this is a tiramisu demogorgon, and I love Stranger Things, so I don't know if I can get this to show up. It's not gonna
Nope.
show up.
Well, put it closer to you, maybe.
Put it next to your face.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Okay, there.
Okay.
Huh.
So
Put
you
it
got
right in
this.
front of your face, a little bit closer to the camera.
You
That
see
would
it?
help a lot of things.
There we go. So it's from Street Side Brewing. They're a really small, fun brewery here in town, not too far from me. I thought this was cool because the cans, it's a Demogorgon, but he's in the what is it, the ice cream costume from the second season. But this is a rye barrel aged imperial stout with chocolate, coffee, and vanilla
Oh, that
Ooh.
sounds
That
delicious.
sounds fantastic.
at 12.7.
There you
Sounds
go.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
is it?
It's delicious. It's light boozy. The flavors all come through, and it's not like that. It doesn't have a heavy coffee.
Yeah.
It is definitely. It's got all the bits of tiramisu in it,
Yeah.
but with a real velvet on the tongue. So it
Gets a little bit more of that espresso flavor that you would get out of a tiramisu.
It seems to be light in that,
Mhm.
and I don't know if that's maybe because like it's been sitting for a while. I don't know if that started to like
Mhm.
kind of go away from it, but
Yeah.
it's everything I'd hoped it would be.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, good.
So that's the, and they don't make it that often, so that's why I grabbed up a can when I was at the
Heck yeah.
bottle shop. So
Oh,
Always.
nice.
what are you drinking, Jake?
So
Or
so
Joe.
I grabbed this is funny, I had this in the fridge already, and
Mm-hmm.
then my wife was at the local big box store, didn't realize I had it, and grabbed another.
Okay,
So I was
darn.
like, perfect for today.
nothing like having a backup.
Yep.
Exactly. So out of Silver City Brewery in Bremerton, Washington.
Mhm.
So that's
Okay.
western part of Washington. We have got Fat Woody.
Love it.
So this is their Scotch Ale,
Mhm.
oak aged limited series, 9.2. Which in a 22, that's plenty.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's really malt forward,
Mhm.
but incredibly smooth because of the barrel aging.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I love Scotch ales. Scotch ales are one of my favorite areas to go into and to delve into, and typically because they've always had a higher ABV. And when you get there, you get some of those sweeter malts that also come out with the bitter malt.
Yeah.
And with the Scotch ales, they just lend themselves to easy drinking. And even people that are not big into beers can enjoy a Scotch ale real
Yeah.
simply.
Yeah, it's nice. It's not too bitter. It's got some sweetness to it. I enjoy
Yeah.
it definitely.
They
We actually near the end, like the later part of the spring here in town, one of the home brewing guys that I run around with from church, and another guy from church who's a former chef here in town, they get together and do a beer pairing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
Nice.
he makes all these beers up, and the chef makes all this food up. And the last time that we did it, he did a Scotch ale, and they paired it with a Scotch egg, and it was freaking amazing.
That sounds
Oh.
fantastic.
It
Maybe I
was
should make those for one of the next podcasts.
Yeah.
there you go. It was so good. But yeah, we've done a few different pairings in his backyard. We'll have like 50 people in the backyard, and everything's bottled. Nothing is
Yeah.
kegged.
Mhm.
So it's all bottled beer,
Nice.
which takes
Nice.
forever to do. But man,
Mhm.
it's quite an event. So yeah.
So and Scotch ales can get a little peaty sometimes.
Yeah.
This one isn't very much, but when they are, perfect with a cigar.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic with a cigar. But this one is pretty mellow on that end. So
Well, and as you drink yours, one of my favorite tasting tricks that we've been given from one of our interviews that we did, and now I'm going to forget her
Inga?
name, from Inga, and it's
in Bruges,
Bruges.
Belgium.
and it's as you go to taste it, close your eyes, and take in the smell while your eyes are closed, because as you cut off one of your senses, you're able to absorb and use your other senses at a heightened level. And I love that. And we've used that on every single beer we've drank since, and it helps us to find more tasting notes and to appreciate them a little bit deeper.
That's a really good piece of advice for being able to get those notes out. I know like I'm a bourbon drinker. That's one of my big things. And I know with that, like, you know, I remember the first time going to a distillery and they were explaining like, this is how you smell a bourbon before you actually take a drink of it and stuff. So yeah, so I never really thought of that with a beer, to actually like close your eyes. I mean, you could do the same thing with a bourbon too.
Well, I think I do it naturally with, you know, 'cause generally I will pair, mine is generally, when I drink rarely, it's going to be cigars and scotch, cigar and whiskey or bourbon if I need to, but scotch is my preferred, and I have my preferred scotches, and specifically, like you've talked about, you know, the differences in beers, but I absolutely agree, because I know that every time I start drinking, I turn off my hearing and ignore my kids.
Yeah.
So, I agree 100%. 100%. Next time I'm going to close my eyes and my ears and just see how.
This is before you're drinking, not after or during.
Yeah.
I think through the whole thing. Should be fun.
Well done. Perfect. Well done, Danny. Well done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and it's in tasting whiskeys is actually where I started learning how to taste things. That's what got me into some of these bigger beers, is because I was delving deep into the whiskey world. And so then I'm like, oh, well, look at some of these beers. And I'm like, okay, well, this one's, you know, bourbon barrel aged. I'm like, okay, well, let's try that. And I'm like, oh, dang, there's a lot of bourbon in that. Yeah. And so it's being able to find the commonalities between the two drinks. And granted, you don't have the same heft out of the beer that you get out of a straight liquor, coming out of a scotch, a bourbon, anything like that.
Yeah.
But so many people get turned off by the heavy flavors of, you know, whiskey in general. And so, you know, bourbon barrel aged beers are a good little segue for some of them.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's kind of funny too, with beers and people. It's like I used to actually do brewery tours here in town in Cincinnati, and you'd always get people who they were like, I don't really like craft beer. I'm like, why are you on this tour then? Because like, you know, or you're like, hey, like what kind of styles do you like? Well, I usually drink Budweiser and Coors and all that stuff. And it's like, all right, you're going to be a fun one to try some of these things. But I remember meeting Joe for the first time in New Orleans a few years back, and I was not a fan of IPAs. I was not a fan of sours. Since me and another guy had won like the suite upgrade for Dad 2.0, we were going to do the bottle share in our room. And so everybody was bringing stuff. This is actually how I met Joe. And so he brings a bunch of different things, and I'm trying all these little things. I'm like, the sours weren't getting at me, and the IPAs, I was like, no way, this isn't working. It took a while. Like I was like, anything else other than that, I was fine with. It wasn't until Joe and I went to Orlando for Home Dad Con and went touring around with Greg Washington and Tom Walters, that was a fun day. Like we had so many breweries, it was crazy. I mean,
I can remember, it was fantastic.
We tried every beer on every menu at every brewery. It was
Orlando Brewing, we sure did, and they had like 25 taps, something like that.
It was crazy, but that was where it was just sort of like, all right, like I'm on this, I may never get to do something like this again. And I'm going to like, just open up my palate to whatever comes in. And it really like, I was like, all right, like I can enjoy like a lot of these, and I love sours now. Love them. Love them. And I'm so glad that I like them now, because here in Cincinnati, there are two places here in town, Street Side, which is where this tiramisu is from, and Urban Artifact, which is now becoming bigger and bigger. Like actually one of the guys in the Daddy Porter group posted that he got it up in Minnesota, which is really surprising. Awesome. And so, yeah, it's one of those deals where it's like, if you're going to get in, like get in and just, kind of throw it all down and try it out. So
it took a trip to Belgium for me to like sours.
Yeah. Really?
Like, I went all the way to Belgium. The only sours I had over here were just framboise BS. And
would you call framboise a sour?
Well, I mean, not really, but that's as close as I had gotten. I didn't know anything. That was the closest I had been. And right before I left, I had from Frem down in Oregon, I had one of theirs, and it was really good. And I was like, uh-oh, I might actually like this stuff. And then I go on a brewery trip in Belgium, of all places, and they are basically known for their sours. And we went to Rodenbach Brewery, which their head of brewing is known as the king of or the godfather of sours. That's his nickname. because they hired him years ago and he like overhauled everything.
Crazy.
And we had an entire dinner of basically sours from them.
Dang.
And completely opened my eyes. Like, oh, I've been full of shit this entire time. This is there are some good stuff. And since then, it's probably in my top 3 styles now.
Well, now we seek them out. Like, my favorite was
around
we
here.
were doing our interview this on Sunday, and we had done a tasting, quick review on Prairie's key lime pie sour, and it was awesome, but it was missing a graham cracker flavor to it. And so we're talking during our interview, and I'm like, and this brewery that we are in love with out here, it's Sig Brewing. And I'm like, man, I just need Sig to make a key lime pie sour, and then I'm going to be totally happy.
Right. Yeah.
And our buddy's just sitting there, and he's like, hold on, takes his headphones off, runs over to his taps, and he comes back with 3 bright green glasses. I'm like, you gotta be shit.
It was like a Willy Wonka thing. Like all of a sudden he's just magically out of his pocket. Oh, this is the beer you wish they'd made here.
And it was lights out. Like I went and picked up a crowler to be able to take home at Easter to share with my mom, sister, and brother-in-law. So I'll be like, here, you guys, here's a tart ale. I'm going to see how you feel about this. And if you hate it, I'm okay with it because I'll finish it.
Yeah. I'll finish everything you've got.
That's awesome. I'm jealous. I get to hear some of these stories from Joe or listening to them on the podcast. I'm like, man, you guys are really hitting it out with just who you guys get to talk to and the things that you're experiencing on the podcast. And it's really cool to be a part of and just to be able to experience some of it through just listening. And I feel like you guys do a good job of describing what's going on, and the descriptions for the beers make it that much more intriguing for me to continue listening to. So
well, thank you.
On that. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so It's been a blast, and we've got a few that we're working on. We're trying to get more and more into the interviews because we found that, well, we enjoy the sound of our own voices. We want our listeners,
you have to as a podcaster,
a little bit. And but we want our listeners to be able to, expand their knowledge of beer and all of the aspects of it. Right. So we've reached out to a couple of different breweries in town and a few just in the area. And hopefully we've got someone that's R&D for one of the larger independent craft breweries in the area that is the creator of one of my favorite IPAs. And so hopefully we get that one locked down, and we've got a couple of others. And so hopefully we've got some great content coming up here in the next few months for everyone.
Well,
that's
and
cool.
We've really lucked out. We've ran into some people, his friend Tucker, my friend, and now our friend, well, I call Tucker a friend now too. Our friend, John, who owns a bottle shop up in Paulsville, Washington, and a couple others that really not only like the show, but like what we're doing and the style in which we're doing it. We're very into independent craft beer. That is our thing. We want local, we want, family run, passion, that type of stuff. And some of these people have a lot of connections. And when they really like you, are like, we want to help you do this more.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, here you go. Call these people, do this. And you're like, okay.
So I'm curious. So like, I'm a big history buff, and here in Cincinnati, and this is the thing that Joe's going to find out when he comes here. And Jake, you should come too.
Well, my cousin lives there now, so
then you got to come to Home Dad Con.
Well, it's the second the Lions are playing the Bengals, because my cousin, her and her girlfriend moved out there strictly so they could have Bengals season tickets.
That's not hard to get. Those are not hard to get. You pretty much. I think there are.
Aren't they handed to you once you walk in?
Open a bank account, you get that in a toaster.
Actually, there are homeless people on the street who will trade you money, or they will trade you like cans of beer for Bengals tickets. I'm pretty sure. So, it's like currency in a different way. Anyway,
it's raining tickets. That's weird.
Yeah, that's early.
Well, as a Lions fan, I can sympathize.
I mean, it's like there's a helicopter that just drops tickets, just like they used to drop turkeys back in the 70s from WKRP. So
you people just love to drop shit from the sky.
Yeah, they do.
That's Cincinnati.
I didn't know they wouldn't fly.
Best episode ever.
Oh yeah. There's you can get a t-shirt here in town that's got the turkeys being dropped from a helicopter with the WKRP and Cincinnati logo on it. So
I'll be looking for it.
Yeah, but no, I'm curious. So history, like I said, is big. Like there, especially here in town, beer history is huge. when I was working for the tour company, like Cincy Brew Bus, we were constantly talking about the history of things, and it goes back to like the late 1800s, early 1900s for different things. I'm just curious, like out in that area where you guys are from. I mean, it took longer for people to kind of make their way out west, but what kind of history have you guys learned about beer out in your area?
That I can fill up a recycling bin real quick. That's my favorite beer history.
A lot of our long running classics have gone away, been bought out, that type of thing, which is a real bummer, and why we focus on the Indian local. One of my favorites, the first beer I ever drank, which not good that, well, I mean, I was getting sips at 10, that's sips, right?
Yeah. It's vitamin R, it's vitamin water. Before
Steel,
50 Cent got his hand in it.
Right. And then steal a chug or two, was Brock's favorite out here, Rainier.
Yeah, buddy. Longmire.
Brock made me travel with Rainier to Home Dad Con because he had to try it because of Longmire.
I had watched all the episodes of Longmire, and I was like, he keeps cracking open these Rainier beers. I'm like, dude, I want to try this. I just got to know.
What's hilarious is the first 2 seasons, they say it like it's a French word.
Ronier.
Or not even that. It's worse than that. It's totally butchered. And I'm like, it's the name of the most popular mountain out here. Like, get it right, you idiots.
Yeah. Well, isn't it the tallest in the continental, or not in the continental, because Alaska's got a couple taller, but it's within our mainland. It's the tallest mountain in the mainland of the U.S.
Yeah, it's friggin' huge.
I'm looking forward to getting to see it in person this summer.
Yeah, but the problem is, growing up, that's what all the uncles drank, all my dad's friends, that and Mickey's malt liquor. Those are the 2 things. So I smell those, and it's like I'm transported to 5th grade. It's real weird.
That's MGD here, and one for me.
There you go. But so the problem with Rainier was local, and it was great because it was cheap and it was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay, and it was cheap. It was serviceable. Yeah. Then they got bought out by a big beer chain, and they increased the price and changed the ingredients so it was cheaper, but it tasted it too. And so now all the benefits are gone. It doesn't taste good, and it's more expensive.
Well, it's kind of like Oli. Olympia beer, which was known for the water because it used the artesian well water to be able to make Olympia.
It tasted different,
and it had a different flavor. And then once they were bought out and no longer making it out of the artesian well, it's just like,
it's just another crap
beer. So would you say that there's being a resurgence then of just like of the beer culture out there in the Pacific Northwest, and basically?
Well, IPA culture especially. So it's the depth of IPAs out here, and it's because we've got the largest hop growing region in the world, I believe, out in the Yakima Valley. And so you've got so many opportunities for these fresh hop beers, for quintuple hopped beers, whatever it might be. And it's
chewy hops.
Yeah. There's people that are like, we put 3 drops of vodka on top of these hops and put it in a can. Here you go.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Cascade hops come from you?
Yes. So the Cascade Mountains are the farthest west.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Or that's Olympia. Sorry, middle of the state.
But you hear that a lot, like, there's Cascade hops in this, and I'm like, okay, that's got to come from out in your guys' area.
Yeah, that's right there. And I'd say like it's kind of both sides. Like, we just lost Olympia beer. Like, it is gone.
The final.
They closed. You can't even find it. But then you've got smaller places like Sig in Tacoma, Rainy Days Brewing up in Paulsbo. Those are of the small. Those are our 2 up and comers right now.
Our favorites right now.
You name a style, they're killing it. Everything. And so we've got that. We've also got places like Holy Mountain. That's the hat. What Structures up in Bellingham that
Urban
are
Family.
They're mid-sized. Reuben's Brews in Seattle. They're mid-sized and killing it.
Oh yeah.
So you've got a lot of that, but a lot of the traditional stuff that people have been used to for a long time. Have already gone.
Yeah, it's falling off. We're losing, our old school lagers. And so it's even going around to find it. It's like, so I can find all the standards. And granted, my new preferred, if I'm going to go get one, is the Montucky Cold Snack. And because, well, it's called a Montucky cold snack. Like, how could you not want to drink that?
What is that
Never
exactly?
have.
What
Yeah,
what
what is
style
that?
is what is
So-
that style?
It's a lager. It's a basic lager. It's a 6-pack of tall boys that just makes you want to mow the lawn and swear at your kids.
Out of
Oh,
Montana.
so it's a lawnmower, a good lawnmower beer. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I like a good lawnmower beer. Definitely.
Yeah, I
That's
believe it's out of Montana,
nice.
if
Yeah,
I remember correctly.
I say here in Cincinnati, the beer scene is huge. Actually, the numbers now here in this area are up to the point where they're back to the same numbers as what they were back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So
Oh, wow.
I think it puts us like up there as one of the bigger beer cities, honestly, which is kind of weird to think about. But per capita, we've got, I think 70. I think there's 70 breweries here in the Cincinnati area. It's nuts.
Wow.
And for a city that's only like 300,000, that's a lot of breweries.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, and Spokane's becoming that way now too.
Spokane's
So,
getting
and it's
big.
Spokane's got massive amounts, and 9 times out of 10, it's real estate cost. It's these people that
Oh, yeah.
love it and like, well, I can go out and I can actually get a warehouse. I can crank out some good beer. I can have a pizza oven and I can love my life.
Mhm.
Or I can try and make it work in New York. It's like, no, I'd rather ram my head into a wall.
Right.
Well, and around here too, that's the thing. Like there are lots of old buildings that actually housed breweries back in the day that are still like, what do you call them? Like they're still occupable, but they can't even talk. Like,
Occupiable.
yeah, there you go. There's the word.
Yeah.
It's the beer.
You're saying the French version. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's what it
Yes.
is. So, but that's the case. And so you've got folks that you got different companies coming in, or not different companies, but different people coming in and building these amazing craft breweries in like churches and older buildings that, like I said, housed breweries before. And so you get all this really cool history and stuff. And it's neat because you get into these buildings where you're like, you would have drove by them and you're like, I wonder what's in there. And then you get inside and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. So, and two, during the pandemic here, I don't know, you were saying that you guys have lost some breweries out there, but we actually have had 4 breweries open up during the pandemic. And
Wow.
they are all doing really well. Actually, the very first minority pandemic opened up, minority owned pandemic, or I can't even talk.
Minority owned brewery.
Yeah, sorry. The very first
Everybody
Just
together.
wait. He's only had one beer. Just
I
wait.
know.
It gets better. It gets
Oh,
amazing.
I know from
He finishes
personal
that one
experience.
off, and it's like, Danny.
The
I
very
love you.
I know where this is going.
You're such fun. The very first minority-owned brewery opened up here during the pandemic, which is really awesome, called Esoteric. I haven't got to go there yet, but man, their lineup of what they have is sounds really good. There's actually a place that, I'm not kidding you, this place was a ruins. Like there was like basically just a couple of brick walls, and they decided to rebuild the place. And it's an old cartridge factory where Annie Oakley back in the day actually test fired rifles. And so they rebuilt the place and they named it Cartridge Brewing, and their logo is like the butt end of the like the strike end of a shotgun shell. And all their taps in there, are like 6-inch long, or maybe they're longer than that. Like there's these big old fatty like shotgun shells that they use for like the taps, and it's a really neat like setup. But just stuff like that is what's kind of these really neat places to go check out. And they've all got their different things. We've got Rheingeist here in town, which a lot of people know about just because they've gotten so huge. And they're also occupying Christian Moorline's bottling facilities from back in the day, which is one of the more like well-known, like big breweries, kind of along with like Budweiser and all that kind of stuff. Like they were just as big as them. There's just all kinds of neat things. And that's the thing I love about craft beer is that you get folks that come in and are like, I want to start a brewery. And then they find some cool spot and it's got like tons of history behind it. So when you go there, not only are you getting to experience the beer, but you're also going to find out some cool things about your city or your town that you didn't even know existed.
Mhm.
And that to me is even more of a reason to like support these local businesses. You know, it's like, it's one thing to go try out the beers. It's another thing to just be like, oh, I get to learn all of this cool new like history I didn't know about.
Yeah. Well, and I've been to more breweries in Spokane than I have out here. And so there's quite a few there. Like it's the old steam plant that, used to run that way, got turned into a brewery and a restaurant. And so you can go through and see all the history involved within that. And with what they're doing, I believe if it's still on the table out here is with the old Olympia Brewery, is they're taking that, and the community college out here has their brewing and distilling classes, and they're going to try and take that over and make it so they've got a large enough facility for all of these kids to be able to, well, kids, old men, whatever
Kids
might go
Kids.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to us now, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and that's
like you're talking about are you talking like a college course for like brewmaster, that kind of thing?
yeah, community
Oh, yeah.
college. Yep.
So
That's
And
something that
That's awesome.
Cincinnati State started up a few years ago here in town, and it's really taken off.
well, and that's been their plan for a while, but then COVID hit
Right.
and everything just comes to a screeching halt. And nobody realized pre-COVID like how nice it would have been to have ramped up these programs beforehand. So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so things were done. It was like, oh, we got time. No big deal. We got time. Oh, we can't do anything now.
All right. So we're getting close to the end. I want to ask this question because this is something that I wanted to get to. You walk into a brewery. What are your top 3 go-tos, or what are you looking for on a menu?
Am I
Do we-
driving or am I not driving?
That's a good question.
Hey, man,
Do
you're taking
we-
an Uber. So
Yeah, you
Is
have
this-
a driver. You're fine.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Danny. We appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Absolutely.
Um,
I'll do it, man.
So have we been to the brewery before? Have we had anything from the brewery before?
all right, let's say it's a new, we'll start out with, it's a new brewery.
New brewery. Okay. So I'll do one. You can do one.
Well, you do your 3 and I
Okay.
can do my 3. I'm my own man.
See-
Joe.
Yeah, right.
So
I feel you as a co-host. I feel you.
So I mean, really, 3 ain't gonna do it. I'm getting a taster of 4 or 5 because nobody does a taster of 3.
I agree. Yes. A flight is always helpful.
But really, I'm wanting a lager or a pilsner. I'm wanting their IPA. What I'm going for is to see if they can do the basics.
Mhm.
Can they do across the board? A stout or a porter, a stout over a porter. That's just a preference. And then a sour.
Okay.
That's really that's going to give me a good grasp over if they have a specific style that they work with, or if they are scattershot, if they can
Yeah.
do it all.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask them, I'm going to be real nice, and I'm going to hope it's not busy. And I'm going to ask them for either the thing that nobody realizes is awesome or what's not on the list,
There it is.
because I've had an amazing in Spokane before I met this guy. I hit a place that had 2 in the back, a sour and a barrel aged stout, that they weren't going to say anything. And when I asked that question very nicely, I was even like, I know it's a little busy, but do you mind?
Mhm.
And I didn't realize until after I asked that I was talking to the owner brewer, and he said, sounds like you're really interested. How about this and this? And they were stellar.
Yeah.
So
That sounds like the Bright Tank taste that we got down in Orlando at Black Cauldron.
Yep. And when you go in, when it seems like you have an appreciation for what they're doing, you got a good chance of getting something special.
Yep, definitely. All right, Jake, let's hear it.
Oh, so for me, I walk in, I want to taste their IPA. I want to taste either their amber or brown ale.
That's a good
And
call.
it's because that's one of my favorite styles, the amber brown Scotch ale, kind of in that spectrum. And then I want a stout or a porter. And those are my 3 go-tos. I know that even if it's kind of meh, I'm still going to enjoy it just because I like the style.
Yeah.
But then if they knock that out, then I'm like, okay, do you have a sour? Do you have something a little bit more off the beaten path? And then I'll go to that route as well. But yeah, it's if it says barrel aged on anything,
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like that one. Like
Sure.
whether it's a barrel aged sour or a saison, a saison or a stout, like I'm there and I'm all for it.
I was gonna say that's the one that there's 2 styles that I haven't really heard us talk about at all tonight, and it's a saison, which I feel like a lot of people say, like, you've come to a good brewery if they nail their saison.
Sure.
Agreed.
And
It's not
I've
easy.
heard that a lot. And then the other one that I haven't heard us talk about at all, and there's only a couple places here in town that actually make it, is a good Hefeweizen.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And it's when it comes to those, I always fall back on the standards. Like, so Franz and Connor Hef, there are few Hefs out there that I think will ever beat them.
Yeah.
And one of my issues with Hefs is they're so heavy in filling. So I can't have 3 or 4. And for something that's typically a lower ABV,
Right.
that's the type of beer that I'm going to want 3 or 4 of. And you don't really get to play that game because you're just like, and I'm full because I, had those potato skins
A
and
loaf of
tots.
bread and some
Yeah.
potatoes.
Right,
in my glass.
Exactly.
Right. And
Yeah.
and saisons are kind of delicate. Like
Oh, yeah.
you can
Yeah.
mess them up real easy.
Mhm.
There's some styles that are a little bit more difficult to mess up and you can play around a little,
Mhm.
heavier with, but saisons, man.
And I usually like those on a clean palate. It's if
Yeah,
I've
that
had
too.
something super heavy in flavor, like if I've had a barrel aged stout, I'm probably not going to get a saison just
No.
for the
Oh,
sheer
no.
fact that, well,
Yeah.
that's going to be muted. I'm going to lose out on a
No.
majority of the characteristics of that beer just because of
When-
that.
When you're spending the money we're spending,
Mhm.
because not sponsored.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, you want to throw us money? We have been lucky to be gifted beer.
Oh, yeah.
We've got somebody who is sending us something mystery.
Yep.
So I'm not complaining. And
Yeah.
Tucker,
Oh, he's always been
Our
a
tap
gracious,
guy has
gracious
been
host
amazing.
whenever we're at
But-
PST.
but the thing is, when you're spending what we're spending, you want the correct prep,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a lot of time when we start our podcast, it's a few hours after dinner.
Mhm.
We're pretty clean on our palates because you don't want to be throwing that money or getting these specialty beers from friends and such,
Mhm.
and not getting the right flavor out of it because you weren't prepped right.
Mhm.
Definitely.
We'll
Yeah.
sit here and we'll chat about, okay, now what
Right.
way are we tasting
Right,
these?
the order. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we did an episode on prairie beers this last week.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so it's like, okay, well, how do we do it? And I'm like, I'm thinking this way, this way, this way. And he's like, no, let's go this way, and this way, which is good because then we had, the poop filling in the middle of the glory.
Oh, we hit a bad. We
Yeah,
we hit a
it-
bad mark. Let's not go
What,
there. I
did
don't
you,
want
are you drinking
nightmares.
pumpkin? Are you drinking pumpkin beers again? Is that
No.
what's going on?
No.
No.
We've learned our
Done.
lessons.
I
Yeah,
hope
we
so.
only
I
drink
hope so.
pumpkin ciders.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, for anybody who's listening at this point, man, if you haven't seen the pumpkin beer review on Instagram, go check that out because it's quite hilarious. Joe,
Yeah.
Joe almost does a huge party foul towards Jake on that one.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah,
Pretty darn close.
Almost.
That would've been a
He
bad one.
almost died.
Yep.
it was bad.
Um,
It was pretty bad. I like cringed when I watched it. Actually, my wife watched it with me. We were both like, ooh, like.
I apologized after it. He's like, "Oh, he didn't hit me. It's okay. He didn't
Yeah,
hit
he
me."
didn't hit me.
No, and we'll
Shoot.
be soon. We'll be doing. We're gonna take about 5 or 6. Let's say low end beers. I guess that'd be
Yeah,
the
lawnmower
politically-
beers. We're
there
gonna
you
go
go.
lawnmower beer tasting.
And we're gonna do a blind tasting
There you go.
and see just what happens.
Awesome. Well,
Wow.
I'll tell you what, guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight and getting to
Yeah.
talk to you about beer and stuff. I really hope that I know Joe's already planning on coming to Home Dad Con because he's staying with me.
Dude, I'm gonna be there for like 6 days.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. My
Your wife's gonna kick me out on the
She's
last
already
one.
dreading it, but at the same time,
Oh, I
she's
bet.
excited to hang out with you.
When I show up from the Bourbon Trail with a big old bottle for her, she'll be like,
there you go.
"Oh,
That's-
okay."
There's the key right there. You
I
her back
know.
some- you bring her back some Woodford Reserve, and she'll be very happy with it.
Woodford. Oh, I
Done.
love me Woodford. My mom's old boss. He was a member with their tasting room because her business was based out of Kentucky, out of Lexington there. And so every once in a while, randomly, my mom would come home with Kentucky with like a reserve bottle, like, and it's in just these little,
Yep.
Nice.
quart bottles. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
thank you. I'm like this little 350 milliliters of glory coming back to me. And I'm like, this
Yep.
is a whiskey I never would have gotten my hands on.
Yep. Well, and that's the
And
thing
so-
I realized today too, when I was out bourbon hunting, was that how privileged this area of the country is to be able to be so close to the bourbon
Mhm.
trail. Because there's stuff I see on guys on the TikTok that are talking about like how they can't find certain things. I walked into like a Kroger liquor store and I'm like, oh, there's
there.
this and there's this and there's that. Like, I'm like, these aren't hard to find at all. They're like right here, but they only have it to travel 90 minutes up the road to get to me. So it's not that far.
Yeah.
So
And you're
I
like,
totally
no, there's
understand.
more Blantons than you can find here. Yeah.
Shh. We don't want to talk about it.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, but seriously though, guys, I really hope that, especially Jake, I hope that you're able to come to Home Dad Con in Cincinnati, because it is so much fun. Like these kind of conversations just happen really easily, and bottle shares are just a blast. And that's where I get to
Yeah.
actually get to try lots of beers from all over the country. And then too, you get to talk to different guys, and these kind of conversations where you get in depth with, talking about the notes and all the different things that are in the beers and stuff and whatever else. Like it's so much fun. So I really appreciate you guys coming on the show, because
it's been fun.
This is what we wanted the Geek Out series to be like, was just, being able to just kind of go deep and have fun with talking about different topics. So I appreciate you guys coming on tonight.
Yeah, well,
Happy
thanks
to
for having
oblige.
us. It's been entertaining. It's nice to talk to someone besides him.
It's
Now
fun
you
to
sound
be
like
on
Danny.
the.
Now you sound like Danny.
Well, Danny's got a really pretty face. He hasn't talked
That's
much.
true.
Yeah, well,
That's a good
again,
call.
I know my, I know where
your
I'm,
role?
Yeah, I know
your
my role.
place.
I know my role for sure. This
knows
is where
his
I'm
limits.
I'm the. It's really funny too, because for Brock, because I love to talk, and Brock loves to talk too, but not as much as I do. He doesn't realize it.
I don't believe
And I'm
that.
always just throwing jokes and talking and all this, and he's my straight man on a lot of the things. I'm like, blah blah, and he's like, well, actually, no, we're just going to put the camera on that. I'm like, no, it's a joke, man. Okay, no, let's let it go. It's fine.
When we get into
I
some of
know
the
my
other
role.
when we get into some of the other topics,
I
though,
feel
that are
you,
coming
Danny.
up,
I feel you.
Yeah, right. Right.
Danny will be talking more than me, because we're going to get into some
yeah.
things that I'm not real big on.
Sergio's coming up.
Yeah, cigars.
next
I don't know a
week.
whole lot about
Uh-oh.
those.
Cigars.
There you
Okay.
go.
So yeah, so we'll have Sergio Rosario Diaz on talking about cigars, and then we're also doing
Nice.
board games at some point, and that's also in Danny's wheelhouse.
Is that going to be Micah?
We're doing gaming.
I don't know. He's still working on who he's going to get bringing in for the gaming side of things. So
Yeah, because there's a well, again, it's like who would who you guys would choose to bring onto your show about talking about specific craft beers and things like that. You say
Sure.
gaming, that's a big topic for me, and I'm probably as into the layers of gaming that you guys are the layers of craft beer. So I'm like, I could, Micah's, and I love Micah, and I really hope he is going to come on. I'm
me
still going to
too.
talk to him about it. But a lot of the guys, Matt Strain is a big
well,
gamer.
Matt Strain, if you're smoking anything, that's when you need to get Matt. I mean, if
Yeah,
you do anything on meat and you don't get
anything
Matt,
on meat, that's
I'm
Right.
not listening
Right.
anymore.
Well,
I'm
that's
done.
the thing is too, is well, I don't want him here because I want him on this one,
Right,
so
right.
Yeah,
I'm still kicking it around, but yeah, that one's going to be big. Cigars. I mean, I can't. Sergio is. I listen to his podcast, and he has just some amazing love of cigars and understanding of cigars and cigar culture, and just the passion that he's got for it. And again, that's exactly why Brock said beer, and I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, these guys love beer. They've got that passion. They're going to bring that to the show. I want, people, I want the network to hear that, to understand that you guys are really passionate about your stuff, and that they can, contact you and get in touch with you. Come to
Definitely.
Home Dad Con, try
yeah.
72 different beers, bourbons. We're doing bourbons this year.
Hey, either
What
or.
were-
I mean,
what
there's
were-
more than one day, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well,
Don't say that, because the last beer share, everyone
No,
that brought
there's a whiskey day and there's a beer day.
no,
There
because there's
is.
about 2.5 beer days.
yeah. There's a lot of
Rookie
beer.
numbers.
It's
And
you're gonna make this sound really bad for Home Dad Con.
and,
but yeah,
and
there's a lot.
Orlando, I
It's
was
education.
repacking on the last night because of so many that were left
Yes.
that I was looking at, and I'm like, that one's too good to
Mhm.
just pour out or leave. So I had to repack all of my stuff to fit another 10 beers into the damn
It's
thing.
really-
It's
really-
real
it's-
easy to leave
yeah.
shoes behind.
It's really It's
I
really
Right.
did. I did.
I will FedEx clothing home so I can take the beer with me.
It was the last straw. I left those gym shoes because I
But
was
it was
like,
man.
it was really cool. Every time I've seen it or seen even a picture of it, if someone shares it or whatever, it's not just like a big pile of one kind of beer.
oh, no.
It's 95 different individual beers from different individual places from all around the nation, if not around the world. And
Mhm.
it's such a different thing. I mean, you say, well, we drank about 75 beer. Yeah, okay, redneck, you got drunk. No. That's not what we're doing at all. And
they're
to just
tiny.
to kind of
They're
clarify,
so tiny pours.
Yeah,
That's the
they're
thing. Like
little
you
bitty
get to
taste
and it's
you
for
get to
culture.
try.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get to
It's-
try 75 beers, but they're like little 1 ounce pours, so it's only like
Yes.
75 ounces.
Yes.
What does-
It's like going to an art exhibit, but for your thirst.
What does
Yes.
Randy Marsh call it? He calls it like a smorgasbord or something like that.
I don't
It's like-
remember.
It's a tasting, and it's fancy, and it's classy.
Yeah, classy. Yeah,
It is
what
much
classy.
much more than you'd think if you go, oh, our dad's getting to drink beer. No, it's not like that. Sorry, sir. You're
Drops
not
the shot in the beer. It's
Yeah.
classy.
allowed.
Irish car bombs now. Okay.
I mean, or proper Boilermaker. I mean,
Boiler
let's
Or
just
that,
do it
yeah,
right.
or
Yeah.
proper there you go. All right. Oh man. All right. Well, I think we're going to cut this episode off. So, man, we could keep going. I know we
Oh,
could,
probably.
sure.
but
Yes,
yeah.
we could.
So, thanks for coming on the show, guys. I really
Yeah,
look
thanks
forward
for
to seeing
having
you
us.
guys in October, and this was a lot of fun. And we'll get stuff put in the show notes where folks can listen to your guys' show and
please
keep
do.
following you on
Appreciate
Instagram
it.
and things like that. But thanks again, and y'all have a great day.
Yeah,
Hey, you too. Cheers.
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 I'm a dad, that's what I do.